Well, welcome back to another edition of Maryland Family Matters. My name is Jeff Trimbath, and I'm the president of the Maryland Family Institute. And it's my great privilege to introduce to you our guest for today. Madison Wells-James is a friend of the Institute. We've worked together for a number of years, Madison, and delighted to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Madison, tell me a little bit about your Maryland story. How did you get to Maryland? Did you grow up here? How is it that you're here in our state?
Sure. So I am originally from Maryland. I was born in Holy Cross Hospital. And I lived here in Montgomery County for the first 9 years of my life. And then God had other plans and took our family out of state for several years. So I've lived in Cleveland, I've lived in Buffalo, New York, and then I was in Delaware for a couple of years. And then I made my way back to Maryland, or I should say, we made our way back to Maryland in June of 2019. And that's when I went to the University of Maryland. So
Wow.
I've spent half my life in Maryland and half outside of Maryland, but I do call this my home. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you born here, raised a little bit elsewhere, but you chose to come back to this state.
exactly. Hmm.
What a wonderful testimony. Tell me, how was your education growing up? Uh, Public school, private school, homeschool? How were you educated?
Sure. So I spent most of my time in the public school system, minus 1 year. When we went to Cleveland, I was in a private Catholic school for
Okay.
fourth grade, which that was definitely a culture shock for me because I had had, public school prior to that. But yes.
That's great. That's great.
Mhm.
And tell me, I know you're a very proud Terp. You went to the University of Maryland, which is great to see that. I'd love to talk to you about your experience there at Maryland, specifically as a Christian, but also as a pro-life person. So, want to dig into that a little bit, and also ask you, uh, tell me about your commitment to life. Why are you pro-life? How did you come to that conviction? Tell us about that story.
Well, my college experience is a really big part of my overall testimony as a Christian,
Yeah.
and kind of my conversion into the pro life space, if you will. And long story short, after I graduated high school, I felt the Holy Spirit calling me back because I had kind of fallen away, having moved around a lot and not really being around as many Christian friends, etc. And I felt God, saying that I needed to rededicate myself, to Him and put Him at the center of my life. So when I went to school, I made it my first priority to find a college ministry. So I
Wow.
joined the Baptist Collegiate Ministries, and Jessica Senesac, she's the Baptist chaplain for that campus ministry. And so that was really, really essential in honestly, like, just kind of determining the rest of the trajectory of my life so far. Um, as you know, college is very formative,
Yeah.
and that first year, even those first few months, is very essential because you're either going to go in one direction or the other. Um, and so I joined this ministry. I began to be discipled. I met a lot of friends, some of which were more conservative in their ideology and Christian. And I was challenged by that. And so, really, things started to change for me more ideologically my sophomore year of college. And I will say her name. So, my friend Amris, I love her dearly. She and I got into a little bit of a tiff about politics and the president, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, it's funny because a couple years later, she actually told me after this conversation that she had been praying for me. And so that's just a testimony to, you know, prayer and intercession, how that does work.
Yeah.
And so God used her and some of my other more conservative friends, the ministry that I was in, also alternative media. That
Hmm.
was that was one thing that really started to change my mind, because I didn't know any better. I would just watch, CNN or whatever. So, but I started listening to other more Christian and conservative voices, pastors like Vodi Bakum, who that,
Hmm.
I miss him a
God,
lot.
God rest his
Paul
soul. That's
Washer,
right.
people like that. And so it was just like all of these things were happening at once. And
Yeah.
so, my mind was being transformed, and that's why Romans 12 is actually one of my uh, Romans 12:2 is one of my favorite verses because it talks about being transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by
Yeah.
testing, you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect.
Yes.
So God was renewing my mind, and I was learning to critically think more about my positions, including race, including the question of homosexuality and all of that, as well as the pro life question.
I
Um,
I just wanna
yes.
I'd love to just kinda put just I guess, an exclamation point on a point that I don't want our listeners to miss.
Hmm.
Here is a young woman who's telling us her story about going to college, and she came to faith by going to a secular university, one of the leading secular universities in our country, and God used that and the people there to draw you back to Himself. I don't want people to miss that. So it's a great part of your story.
Mhm. Yes, I agree because Maryland, it's a great school in a lot of ways, but as you know, it's very liberal, it's very secular. Many
Yeah,
professors there are very open about their progressive beliefs, which of course I had a few very interesting experiences with that.
yeah.
Um, but yes, so God was waking me up, and I really
Mm,
started to examine what I really believed and why.
yeah.
And so I guess fast forward, by the time I graduated, I could officially come out as if you want to say, as a Christian conservative.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I joke with people like I went into school a neutral Christian. I came out a Christian conservative. So
great.
yes, and
Would you say that your faith came first, and then after that, the positions on issues and culture and these other things kinda naturally followed afterward? Is that the progression?
that's correct. Yes. And I want to be clear about that because, whenever you put these labels like conservative, I think
Yeah.
people sometimes can kind of be like, oh, that has a certain stigma to it. But the point is that as you grow in Christ, you are naturally going to align more with conservative values. That's just how
Mm,
it works. Like when you read the scriptures, when you examine the convictions that God lays out about life, about marriage, about family, that's the direction that you're going to go in.
that's great. Tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about some of those interactions you had on campus, maybe in class or with other students who may not have been as open or as supportive. Are there a story or so you may wanna share that's insightful, to help our listeners understand your journey?
Sure. So there's one story in particular that always stuck with me, and it's just kind of a core memory at this point because it was so egregious. Um, one of my professors who was in the English and the film department,
Uh-huh,
I had to take a couple auteur classes to fulfill some of my requirements, and so I took a Spike Lee film class.
okay,
As you can imagine, the class is predominantly black.
okay,
Um, but my professor was white, and he kinda had this joke, because he's, like, LA liberal, more progressive. He was also colorblind, and he would just make this joke like, "Oh, I'm a white colorblind guy teaching a room full of color kids." Like, it was just anyway, it was just funny. But
wow,
the first day he decided to give us a lesson, um, naturally on the foundations of America, because that's exactly what I expected to hear the first day of my film class. And so he drew this Venn diagram on the board, and he said that America was founded on the intersections of negrophilia and negrophobia.
oh my, okay,
And I was just baffled by that because that factually incorrect.
sure,
And also those are made up words. Those are made up
sure,
neologisms that have no
sure,
meaning whatsoever.
mm,
So that's just one example of kind
interesting,
of how students and just people my age in general are just swimming. They're just inculcated with all of this ideology, whether it be the gender stuff or revisionist history.
yeah,
Even some of my journalism professors, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus or anything. I don't want to do
sure,
that. But there was I took a women in media class.
hmm,
That was a mistake. That was a mistake. Um, and it was laced with feminist ideology.
Mm,
which of course, when you're talking about feminism, that's inextricably tied to so-called reproductive freedom
yeah,
and all of
yeah.
this. So yeah, people are very bold. So yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on to
Mhm,
sort of where you're at now and sort of contemporary things, Madison, what would be
mhm,
your advice to a young person who is going to be going off to a secular university, maybe a
mhm.
young person who comes from a faith background, or who what would be your advice in terms of how to survive that kind of environment?
That's a good question. I would say number one, you need to get into a good ministry. You
Mm,
need to surround yourself with people who are serious about the Lord and serious
yeah.
about the Lord's business.
Mm,
Number two, you
mm,
need to be in your Bible, right, and be
mm,
praying. Those are,
yeah.
the basic things. It sounds cliche, but it's true, right? Those are the ways that um, the Lord has given us to communicate with Him and to stay grounded in His convictions.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
number 2, and then number 3, you need to ask the Lord. I always ask God for discernment and wisdom, and I
Mm,
think, that He has given that to me by His grace.
yeah.
So, like, if you ask for that, He will give it to you, and you'll be able to
Mm,
discern what is true versus almost true. And,
yeah.
lastly, just be bold, be courageous, speak the truth in love, let your speech be seasoned with salt, and everything will be fine.
That's great. What a great summary of great advice there. Let's fast forward now to today, Madison. If we could tell us about your job now. What are you doing here in Maryland? And yeah, let's learn about what you're doing now.
Sure. So right now, I work at the Columbia Pregnancy Center, which is the
Mhm.
only crisis pregnancy center in Howard County, Maryland.
Mm,
Our mission here is to empower women to choose life, and we do that by offering a variety of services like pregnancy tests, medical grade ultrasounds, material assistance. But ultimately, because our organization is Christian based,
yeah,
we don't just meet those immediate needs, but we walk with them and we try to offer them the hope, eternal, right, through Jesus Christ.
yeah,
So our client advocates, do a wonderful job of building those relationships with our men and our women, because we also serve men as well.
mm,
And they're, trying to have faith conversations with them. We've had clients that have converted to faith. We also refer out
right.
to churches. So, but yeah, that's a little bit of what we do here. And just so you know, I did get connected with the CPC back in 2024,
Oh, great.
when one of our former volunteers came to my church and spoke about what they were doing. And at the time, I was looking for a way to get involved with the pro life space, and this felt like the right thing to do. So I volunteered here for about 18 months, and then I joined the staff team last fall, and we're still here.
And so, if someone wants to learn more about the Columbia Pregnancy Clinic,
Mhm.
how would they connect with you?
With me personally,
With the clinic,
oh,
sorry?
yes. So you can, if you're interested in learning more about our center, you can go to www.columbia-babies.org, and the
Wow.
website just gives a really good overview of what we do, and also the ways that you can get involved. One of the ways that we primarily raise funds is through the baby bottle campaigns. I don't
Yes.
know if you're
Mhm,
familiar with that.
yeah.
So yeah, if your church is interested in hosting a campaign, they can do that. We're
Mm,
always looking for volunteers, and we take material donations as well. Like our center is 100% donor funded,
yeah,
so we
yeah,
rely on the generosity of our community. So
that's great.
mhm.
And people, if they want to just make a gift, they can just do that, I would assume, at the
Yes,
website. Is that right?
that's correct. Yes, if you
Yeah.
would like to make an online donation, whether it be monthly or one time, you can also
Mhm.
go to that same website, columbia-babies.org.
That's great, that's great. Well, we hope a lot of our, viewers and listeners will do that. And I wanna ask a question, Madison, given your history, given what you're doing right now, sort of a two-part question. What are some of the biggest barriers that you face as a pro-life Christian conservative here in Maryland? And then what do we do to get more of people like you?
Mm.
How do we clone you? How do we nurture the next generation of Madison Wells Jameses who are coming up?
Okay, well, I think I'll start with the second question first.
Okay.
Um, I think the way that we bring up, more people like myself, it really starts young. It starts through education. Um, I this is gonna sound kinda 'cause I'm not a parent yet, and I don't wanna seem like I'm judging anybody, but I
Mm,
really think that Christians need to either, homeschool or put
mm,
their kids in a Christian private school or classical school. I think we need to pull our kids out of the public education system ASAP.
wow. Mm,
And until that can be reformed, I think that that's the primary way to do it,
mm, mm,
because worldview formation starts very early.
mhm,
So if we want our kids to, have a proper understanding of God's view of babies and family and all of these things, then we have to be the primary ones that are educating them and instilling those values.
mm,
As for like the Black community more specifically, um, that's going to be a little bit more challenging, because it's since I would say about the baby boomer generation, there has just been this indoctrination, and it's sad to say, some people are not gonna, change their minds. So we do the best that we can. I think we need to, go into these communities that are predominantly Black and preach the gospel. Like that's
mm,
ultimately going to heal families. That's going to transform minds, and it's going to produce more people with godly convictions. So
yeah,
about life, yeah.
yeah. That's
Hmm.
great. That's great. My guest today is Madison Wells James. She is in development and marketing at the Columbia Pregnancy Clinic, Howard County's only crisis pregnancy clinic. We're so grateful for your pro life witness and activism, Madison. So grateful for your relationship with us here at Maryland Family Institute. Um, and we're grateful for your courage in standing for life on the shoulders of your very committed Christian faith, which we share with you. And we'll be rooting for you and looking to talk with you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And could I actually mention one more
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
So our pregnancy center is trying something new this year, and we're going to be holding an inaugural golf tournament event on September
Yeah.
11th in Fairway Hills
Oh,
Golf
cool.
Club. So if anyone is
Easy
interested,
day to remember, right? I mean, easy
yes,
day to remember.
exactly. I mean, and
Yeah,
what's more patriotic than supporting American families through supporting the pregnancy center? So
that's
there you go.
right. Right. That's right.
If you're interested in signing up for that, that's also available on the website. Or if you would like
Yeah,
to sponsor the event, that's also an option. So just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who's
that's
interested.
great.
Mhm.
September 11th, golf tournament. Where is it?
Fairway
Madison?
Hills Golf Club in Columbia,
Okay.
Maryland.
Okay, great. That's great.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Madison, for being our guest today on Maryland Family Matters, and we look forward to continue our conversation soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Trimbath. I really appreciate it.